said badass hero is a very high compliment. But the term badass hero might fall short of fully describing the hero we're going to tell you about today. In fact, the undercover missions of today's hero, during World War II, were so secret and dangerous, much of the information about her exploits are still classified and top secret. Virginia Hall, the most dangerous Allied spy in World War II. Hall was a plucky overachiever, whose dreams of joining the United States Foreign Service led her to an embassy post in Turkey. This is where she accidentally shot her foot off in a hunting accident, leaving her with a wooden leg and a limb. The Foreign Service used this as an excuse to turn her down, although she suspected the rejection was really because she was a woman. No matter. Hall went to work in France as an ambulance driver, but was forced to flee once France surrendered to Germany. Upon checking into the U.S. Embassy in the UK, she was surprised to be asked to provide intelligence from her time on the ground. Soon, she was recruited by the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. This was a secret British Second World War organization, created in July 1940. She was sent into Lyon, under the guise of being a stringer for the New York Post. Hall was the first female SOE operative to be sent into France. After limited training, this one-legged American woman was among the first British spies sent into Nazi-occupied France in 1941. Hall had found the job of her dreams. She helped smuggle out information and prisoners. In addition, she smuggled in agents and supplies. She soon became a highly wanted woman by the German secret police, or the Gestapo. There were failures, especially in the early days, when members of her network were arrested and killed. The Germans came to realize that they were after a limping lady. But Hall was a natural spy, keeping one step ahead of the German secret police, the Gestapo. Virginia Hall, to a certain extent, was invisible. She was able to play on the chauvinism of the Gestapo at the time. None of the Germans, early in the war, necessarily thought a woman was capable of being a spy. Hall operated in the eastern French city of Lyon. She initially stayed at a convent, and persuaded nuns to help her. She befriended a female brothel owner, and received information that French prostitutes gathered from German troops. Hall organized French resistance fighters, providing them with safe houses and intelligence. This didn't go unnoticed. Hall had to constantly change her appearance. She could be 4 different women in the space of an afternoon, with 4 different code names. The Gestapo hung posters everywhere, seeking La Dame qui boite, the lady with a limb. Gestapo officer Klaus Barbie, known as the Butcher of Lyon, said, "I would give anything to lay my hands on that bitch." Barbie ordered wanted posters of Hall that featured a drawing of her above the words, "The enemy's most dangerous spy. We must find and destroy her." When the situation grew too dangerous, Hall fled France via the Pyrenees, on foot, in the dead of winter. A 4-day trek through some of the most inhospitable terrain and weather. When Hall reached Spain, she was arrested because she didn't have an entrance stamp in her passport. She was released after 6 weeks, and made her way back to Britain. Once back in Britain, she joined the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS, which was a wartime intelligence agency of the United States during World War II. The OSS, the American version of the SOE, which would later become the CIA. She soon grew restless, and wanted to return to France. The British refused, fearing it was too dangerous. The British were worried what would happen to her if she was captured. She had strategic high-level intel knowledge. However, the Americans were ramping up their own intelligence service, the Office of Strategic Services, which had virtually no presence in France. The Americans needed Hall, yet the Nazis were everywhere, making it even more difficult and dangerous for her to operate. She did return to France, this time disguised as an old peasant woman, with gray hair. She got a makeup artist to teach her how to put fake wrinkles on her face. She also got a fierce, and rather scary London dentist, to grind down her lovely, white American teeth, so that she looked like a French milkmaid. Back in France, she was a radio operator, monitoring German intelligence, and organizing drops of supplies to nearly 1,500 Maquis fighters. Hall's second tour in France, in 1944 and 1945, was even more successful than the first. She called in airdrops for the resistance fighters, who blew up bridges, sabotaged trains, and blew up tunnels used by the Germans. She also helped reclaim villages, well before Allied troops advanced deep into France. After the war, the British and the French both recognized Hall's contributions, in private. President Harry Truman wanted to honor Hall at a public White House ceremony. Hall declined, being the good spy, to the end, saying she wanted to remain undercover. William Donovan, the OSS chief, gave Hall the Distinguished Service Cross, making her the only civilian woman to receive that honor in World War II. Hall's mother was the only outsider allowed to be present at the ceremony. During the presentation of her Distinguished Service Cross, Donovan said, "I do think she was America's greatest spy of World War II. She undoubtedly was a major factor in hastening the surrender of Germany and the end of World War II." Hall then joined the newly formed CIA, which succeeded the OSS, and worked there for 15 years, mostly at headquarters. These were not her happiest days. She thrived on the adrenaline of acting independently in the field during wartime. Now she was largely confined to a desk. During Hall's time with the CIA, she faced tremendous discrimination. Being a woman, in what was traditionally a man's world at the time. Hall retired in 1966, and never spoke publicly. She died in 1982 in Maryland, her story still confined to the intelligence community, and much of her exploits are still classified as top secret. Today, the CIA recruits train in a building recently named the Virginia Hall Expeditionary Center. Yes, a true, bad-ass hero. Let us know if you enjoyed this story about a true hero, with a thumbs up. Also, if you know of any other unsung heroes, please let us know about them in the comments below. We may use the story in one of our videos. Doesn't matter if they are personal heroes, such as someone in your family, or hero you know about.